Channel. My name is Tolu. I'm a Christian dating coach, and I show you how to get into the right relationship leading to the marriage God has for you. And before I get into today's topic, I wanted to quickly talk about the webinar that we have coming up on the 28th of June at 6 p.m. BST, 1 p.m. Eastern on meeting and committing to your husband in 6 months. You want to register for that webinar to learn the right way to date, what you need to do to adjust your results with dating, the changes you need to make to actually start seeing a tangible difference in the men you're attracting and the kind of relationships you're entering. So click the link in my bio and first tap to register. It's on the 28th of June. Now, I wanted to talk quickly about dating men without getting emotionally attached. Okay. And if you have any questions for me and you're watching this live, drop it in the question box. So a couple of things about that. When you're dating, it's important that you date with your head, not your heart. Your heart is part of the equation. Like I like to tell my clients inside Wife in Waiting, it is important that you are attracted to that person. It's important that you enjoy being close to them and connected. But it's also important that they fit what you're looking for in a partner. Okay. So dating without emotional attachment is very important. Some of you have stayed in relationships that have become situationships because you get attached to the idea of who he is, or you start, focusing on who he used to be as opposed to what you're currently experiencing. And the problem with that is you're not facing facts. So one of the first things you want to do is make sure you're dating with the facts. Do you make yourself available to only the kind of men that you're interested in? Are you making it simple for you to be able to communicate with men your desires in a relationship and in the process of them getting to know you? And this is part of the work I do with clients in Wife in Waiting. Like for example, on our call yesterday, we literally work together on how are you going to tell a man what you want? What are certain things you should say? How are you going to navigate conversations that are important to you? Because that way, you will not be getting emotionally attached to an idea. You will be facing the facts of how he responds to your request, how you are actually connecting and communicating on hard facts, how he is receptive of your boundaries, how he aligns with your standards. So your emotions will not have the opportunity to cloud your judgment because you are navigating, the dating process in a very simple, clear way through connecting with him based on facts, desires, and letting him know how you're available to date. It's important that you do this at the beginning because that way you've established a pattern of how you want the relationship. And when I say relationship, I'm just talking about when you're the whole process, talking to him, going on dates, becoming exclusive, getting engaged, and marriage. You need to set the tone from the start. So it's difficult for you to wake up after 3 months of talking to a guy, you have agreed to everything he said, not shared your desires or your perspectives, and then you're telling him, oh, by the way, I want us to stop seeing at this time. Oh, by the way, I want to make sure we are doing this instead of that, when you've already created a pattern in the opposite direction. So that's why I'm such a strong advocate, and I tell my clients to establish from the start what you're looking for and be clear from the beginning about what kind of connection you want to have. It's as simple as if you are dating to get married and a guy tells you he's not looking to settle down, he's not interested in, becoming a husband. It's as simple as knowing that person isn't for you. It doesn't then become, I can change his mind. Let me talk to him just because I'm not talking to anyone else. Let me try and see if maybe I can wait for him to hop on board with me. Maybe this is the person that God has for me, but I just need to be more patient. No, that's not what's going on there. The fact is that isn't your person. So that is what I mean by dating without getting emotionally attached. And the thing about emotional attachment is, it's not that you are not going to eventually get emotionally attached, because it's impossible to spend time with someone, whether it's a friend, a family member, colleagues at the office, without any attachment. It's not possible. We're not built that way as humans. However, what I'm saying is you want to leave room for that attachment to develop naturally. Just because you started talking to a guy today that tells you, I want to marry you, you're the best thing that's happened to me, I'm somebody that runs a very good business, I'm a Christian, doesn't mean that all of a sudden you now get attached to him, because that's not the truth. He's just telling you things. You haven't given the opportunity to actually get to know him to see if that is the truth. So that's why, like, when I'm working with my clients, I like to pace them through the process of dating. I show them what to look out for as early as the first week, what exactly they should be paying attention to, all the way down to 3 months into getting to know the person, 6 months into the relationship, and so on and so forth. Because that way you can pace yourself accordingly and catch yourself before you get confused. Because some of you get so emotionally attached that you lose focus. You forget that this is actually what I told God I wanted. This is what I said I was looking for in a partner. Because you settle for the barest minimum at the very beginning of getting to know that person. And the problem with that is it complicates your desire to get married, because all of that is taking time. If you started talking to, I don't know, Kenneth today, or Jason, or whatever his name is, you started talking to him today, and you're already getting attached by the end of the week, or in a few days, or by the end of the month. Guess what? It's going to take you a full, give or take, another 3 to 6 months to extricate yourself from that situation. Because, and if it turns out that person who isn't who they say they are. So that means you're basically going to spend the rest of the year trying to figure that out. And the problem with that is it is taking your time. So that's why you don't want to lead with emotional attachment at the beginning. Yes, it comes into the picture, but like I said, I think in one of my posts on Fan the Flame, emotional attachment should come from evidence. It should come from actual facts. You're getting attached to who he is shown you to be as a person. You're getting attached to how your connection has built. You're getting attached to how he has pursued you, what he has shown you in terms of how he has led you, how you both have navigated disagreements and where you align, and how your values have come together and where you have learned to compromise for each other. That is what you get attached to. You shouldn't be getting attached to the fact that I think he's the first man I've seen in a long time, or he told me things that no man has told me before, or I met him right after I prayed and fasted, so he must be my husband. No, all those things are just fantasy. You are dreaming them up. You need to get attached to facts. You need to get attached to evidence. So it's important for you when you are dating to marry, because you are dating to build a home with a partner, start a family, build your family together, create a legacy. You need to date based on facts. Feelings are important, but they shouldn't lead your decision making in that process. So and if you have questions, drop it in the chat. So when you're dating men, you don't want to be focusing on your emotions, because they will lead you astray. That's why scripture even says, do not awaken love until it's time. You want to focus on the facts. And what I've discovered after doing this for close to 10 years now, if not more, is a lot of women, just in general, not even just Christian women, struggle to navigate how to date based on your value instead of your emotions. And it's because I've seen things like, maybe you're struggling with insecurity, you don't trust that you're an attractive woman, you talk down on yourself, maybe, you grew up in an environment where you weren't loved or supported, you're a single mom, you've gone through a divorce, you're dealing with the social stigma of that, and as a result, your emotions are all over the place. So when you see a man that even looks or resembles safety, security, resembles what you've been praying to God for, you let your guard down. And that isn't what should be happening. You should be dating in a way that supports your desires for marriage that God has shown to you. And that cannot be navigated through emotional attachment. You need to base it on faith and facts. Faith in the sense of trusting that who God has for you will find you, and fact in the terms of how you are positioning yourself. And by positioning, I mean, how are you making yourself available to connect with men, talk to men? How are you positioning yourself? In other words, how are you creating the opportunity to connect with the kind of men you find attractive and you know you can build a home with? Because the truth is, the man you have in your head will not necessarily match the man that you meet in reality. And I was discussing this with my clients in Wife in Waiting yesterday. The frame that God has given you to look at your marriage through, it's all encompassing. So he has shown you who your husband is and who he's going to become. So you need to know, when you are dating, how to navigate who your husband is right now and who you are going to help him become. So you need to know how to navigate both. Because some of you are saying, I want a ready-made man. And once you see a man that is, not like you can't have a ready-made man, but I'm just using this as an example because I'm sure a lot of you can relate. But once you see a man that is maybe flying high in his career, you drop your guard. You're like, oh, finally, I've met somebody that is successful. But you're failing to realize he may be professionally successful but emotionally unavailable. He may be professionally successful but not ready for a serious relationship. He may never want to get married. He may not share your values. But you are willing to compromise all these things because you're getting attached to the idea of finally having a man that strikes one of your desires. And that's not how you should date. When you're dating without emotional attachment, you can't get attached to an idea of a man just because he's ticking one box that you haven't seen in a very long time. You have to look at the picture holistically. That's why inside the Wife in Waiting program, I help my clients build a holistic picture of, okay, what are the qualities you're looking for? How can we make sure you are aligned with those qualities in terms of your day-to-day routine and how you are making opportunities to connect with men? What kind of conversations are you having with men that helps you check those qualities are actually true? Even though they say they have it, how can we make sure that's actually a fact? How can we build evidence to show that this is somebody that you can actually enter a healthy relationship with? Because that's actually what you should be doing. You shouldn't just be saying, oh, I met someone, he's amazing, let's just enter a relationship. That's not how it works. You are meant to actually take the time, except you want to go with the flow. You're not dating to marry, or you are just like going on vibes. If you're dating to get married, which means that you're making an intentional decision to commit to someone for a lifetime, you have to be more strategic. You have to take things into consideration more clearly, and you have to pay attention to the facts. So that's how you should be dating. And something else, and if this is, resonating with you, tap the heart. If you have any questions, drop it in the question box if you're watching live. But something else that you really want to pay attention to is assumptions. A lot of you date based on assumptions. You're assuming that he's a provider because he has a good job. You're assuming that he's a Christian because he goes to church. You're assuming that he is ready for a relationship because he's single. You can't make those assumptions. There are a lot of men that are professionally successful and are not providers. There are men that are single and are not looking for a relationship. There are men that are Christian but don't have a relationship with the Lord. They say they are Christian, but they don't have a relationship with the Lord. So the problem with your assumptions is there is no evidence. There is no facts. You are just assuming based on your own understanding of what you think a man in that position should be. And that's why, it's important for you to clarify, to communicate, to have conversations, to pay attention to patterns, to discern, to be able to know if this is somebody that actually fits that. Just give me a second, guys. Give me a second. Okay. So what needs to happen is you need to change how you position yourself to be able to experience the kind of relationship you want and to be able to enjoy the kind of marriage that you've been praying for and, positioning yourself for. And something I want you to understand is answered prayers do not necessarily mirror the picture you have in your head. So what I mean by that is you're praying for marriage, praying for your husband. So when you see that person, it may mean working through your trauma. It may mean asking questions you've never asked before. It may mean sticking to your boundaries. It may mean learning what it actually looks like to talk about your standards with men. It may mean telling men, telling men what you want. Being willing to let men go and being willing to try a different way of dating. These are just some of the things that it could potentially mean. So you want to ask yourself, what have I been making myself available for? If you notice, I didn't say anything because some of you put it, you say maybe it's my environment, maybe it's my age, maybe it's because this or that. The truth is, that's not true. There are women in your exact position that share your exact circumstances and faith that are getting married. There are women that are in your communities, in your environment, that are settling down with healthy men. So the shift that needs to happen isn't based on external circumstances. It's actually based on how you are processing things internally and the steps you're actually taking to create opportunities to connect with the kind of man you want. Okay, so it's important for you to understand this, because if you don't, it's going to make it very difficult for you to date men that are actually available for the kind of marriage you want, and to date men without getting emotionally attached. Because the problem with emotional attachment, when it's premature, it creates a whole lot of confusion, creates a lot of it creates a lack of understanding, creates a lot of conflict. And mind you, no relationship is perfect, no man is perfect, you're not perfect, you have your issues. So it's important for you to be able to understand what are the changes that you need to put in place to get the kind of results you want. And one of the key changes, which is emotional attachment, is you need to step away from that, deal with actual patterns and facts, communicate more with men, share more in terms of what you're looking for, be willing to, stick to your boundaries, stand by your boundaries. Let me use that. I think that's a better way to phrase it. Stand by your boundaries and your standards. Really get clarity around the standards and boundaries you have. Are they based on what God has told you, or are they based on past hurt? Because, for example, if your boundary is, I'm not talking to any man that, I don't know, works in finance, that makes no sense. Or rather, that would be a standard, because standard are general filters. If your standard is, I'm only talking to men that come from a particular tribe, or I'm only talking to men that work in the banking industry, that makes no sense. Because the truth is, your husband may not work in the banking industry today, but he may tomorrow. So you don't want to unnecessarily restrict yourself. So even when we're talking about standards and boundaries, part of the work I do with clients in Wife in Waiting is clarifying exactly what are we looking at when we say these are your standards and boundaries, and are they healthy? Are they creating opportunities for you to actually connect with your person, or are they making it difficult for that man to come into your life? So these are just some of the things you should consider. The Wife in Waiting program opens on the 28th of June, right after the Meet and Commit to Your Husband in 6 months webinar that will be held on the 28th of June at 6 p.m. BST, 1 p.m. Eastern. In this webinar, I'll break down for you what you need to do to change your results in dating, to actually get into the relationship that will lead you to marriage. And then Wife in Waiting will open right after. This is my 12-month group coaching program that shows you how to date your husband in 90 days and commit to him in 6 months. So make sure you sign up for the webinar. I look forward to seeing you in the webinar and welcoming you subsequently into Wife in Waiting. I'll talk to you all again soon. Bye.